After the resurrection of Jesus, the disciples were gathered together in a locked room, filled with both fear and wonder. They had already seen their master alive again. They had heard his voice, seen his hands, and felt the peace he brought when he stood among them saying, "Peace be with you." But Thomas, one of the 12, had not been there. When he finally joined the group, the room buzzed with excitement. The disciples rushed toward him, insisting, "We have seen the Lord." Their faces were glowing with joy, but Thomas could not bring himself to accept their words. Thomas was a man who wrestled with questions deeply. He had followed Jesus for years, listened to his teachings, and walked beside him through miracles and storms. He loved Jesus, but he was wounded by the sorrow of the crucifixion and overwhelmed by grief. The idea of hope returning felt impossible. So he said firmly, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and touch them with my own fingers, unless I place my hand into his wounded side, I will never believe." His words echoed through the room, surprising the disciples who had just experienced the truth for themselves. 8 days later, the disciples gathered again in the same room, the doors still locked. This time Thomas was with them. Suddenly Jesus appeared in their midst, not with anger or disappointment but with gentle authority. His presence filled the room with calm. He looked directly at Thomas, as if he had heard every word Thomas had spoken days earlier. Jesus stepped closer and said, "Put your finger here. Look at my hands. Reach out your hand and place it into my side. Do not be unbelieving, believe." Thomas froze, overwhelmed with emotion. The risen Christ stood before him, offering exactly what he had asked for. Slowly he reached out, touched the wounds, and felt the truth. In that moment all his doubts melted away. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered the greatest confession of faith. "My Lord and my God." Jesus responded with a blessing that stretches through time to every believer, saying, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." The room grew quiet as Thomas's faith was restored, and the story of his moment of doubt became a message of hope for generations to come. Bible reference: John 20:24-29.